Fake black Israelites teach that unless you are an African American Negro belonging to the tribe of Judah, or a member of one of the other tribes, you cannot be saved. Therefore, it is important to prove the ancient Israelites were not Negroes to refute this theology. Fake black Israelites claim they descend from Noah's son Shem. Shem's son Arphaxad was the ancestor of the Hebrews and Israelites. The question is if Arphaxad's later Hebrew and Israelite progeny were indeed Negroes, as fake black Israelites claim. We will demonstrate they were not. Now, Noah had another son named Ham, and Ham's son Cush was actually the true ancestor of the Negroes or Africans, including fake black Israelites of today. Ham's son Cush was the ancestor of the Cushites. The Cushites who inhabited the land of Cush were the ancient Negroes. This land also went by the name of Nubia or Ethiopia in ancient times. Although fake black Israelites quote an outdated and mistaken Zondervan Pictorial Bible Dictionary to say that Ham did not produce the Negroes, the fact is that book nowhere says the Negroes come from Shem. In fact, this book denies that and says Shem was the progenitor of the Semitic race. And plus, modern high-level scholars affirm that Ham's son Cush was indeed the progenitor of the Negroes. For example, in his study of ancient peoples in the work From Every People and Nation, biblical scholar J. Daniel Hayes observes, the Cushites were clearly black African people with classic Negroid features. Thus, Ham's son Cush was indeed the progenitor of the Negroes. Noah's son Shem was not. The same work goes on to explain. W. Hayes writes in the Cambridge Ancient History that the art of Egypt clearly identified the Nubian Cushite group as Negro. Other physical features are discussed in the ancient sources as well. The Cushites were described as having not only black skin, but also flat noses, thick lips, and woolly hair. Notice even the African American scholar of classics Frank Snowden agrees that it was the Cushites, that is the descendants of Ham, who were the ancient Negroes according to Egyptian art and other ancient sources.
And now Putin is trying to show his other people, you're not matching the color of the promised people. So there's got to be a big problem. You don't match the color of the prophets. So who is it that you think you represent? So these are big times in dunya of a truth that's coming. A heavenly truth through material servants. When Allah disrupts the material hagagami, that which is trying to control this earth, Allah is now disrupting it, smashing it, confusing its players. So these are an amazing time.
I want to give all the praises and the honor to Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem, Recha HaKwadash, and double honors to the elder apostles and the elder bishops of Great Millstone. Honors as well to you other elders and brethren. Shalom to you supporters of this truth, fellow believers, including you sisters, and shalom to the elect. So anyway, I decided to go on this video. This guy sounds like the character Abu, I think, right? That sounds like he's the one to do videos with vocab. Now, you know, we don't get mad about this, but, you know, we're going to go over this a little bit, and we're going to kind of go into their sources or where they get their information from, right, to prove that they've done nothing but rewrite history. They've done nothing but change the Bible. This man, Hayes, what's his name? Something Hayes, J. Daniel Hayes or whatever, how he rewrote the Zondervan Bible Dictionary to try to counter the one that Rudolph Windsor wrote. So let's go to, let me go here real quick. Exodus 11 and 7. I'm just going to flow through this. I don't know which way it's going to go, so bear with me. You know, as you get started, it'll just go to the way the lesson's going to go. Anyway, Exodus 11 and 7. But against any of the children of Israel shall not a dog move his tongue, against man or beast. Ye may know how the Lord doth put a difference between the Egyptians and Israel. So what this man is saying, that in the Bible, the News on Demand Bible, that the Cushites, they had woolly hair. The Hamites, well, Ham out of Cush, they all had woolly hair. They all was dark skinned. They all had full lips, big noses, flat noses, so forth and so on, right? So, at the end of the day, you look at this man, what's his name, Idris Elba, who you can see here, who they said was too ethnic to play James Bond. Again, this is what they do. Everybody else stuff is culturally vultured, but they don't want our people. Number one, the greatest people are the Israelites, and everything has been stolen. I mean, the first healthcare system was set up by the Native Americans, by the way. The medicine men. I mean, I'm talking about in America, right? So when they came here, they had to learn. See, when you take people's heritage and you take people's lands, then you learn what they taught you. This is what Ptolemy did in Egypt, and then declared himself a pharaoh. This is what it happens when you conquer, right? This is the reason why we're doing hacks and picking up people from grocery stores to make extra money. The older men would do these little hustles and pick up the elderly people or young people. They would pick up older people from the grocery stores, and then they turned it into Uber. You see, they capitalize off everything that we hustle. I mean, even when it came to the lottery, we were doing hustling numbers, and then lo and behold, they capitalize off it. Bets. Now you got the bets for sports now, MGM betting. So, anything that they could control, they'll make legal, right? So they don't want you jakes to have anything. And this is the facts. Look at your history. The inventions that was started was pretty much due Israelites. Now, there's some people who look white are still Israelites, but this is the lies and hypocrisy. So what they're saying is that this man, the Cushites and everybody else were black, flat noses, as though the Israelites didn't have noses and lips. And you see the racism in these guys? Now it's all about the noses and the flat noses and the hair. So the same argument, the same thing we're pronouncing because we are telling the truth, and how they call us racist, you can clearly see this is. Now, somebody who's not racist will say, well, it doesn't matter. They could look like anybody. It's just a message. But this is what they do. So this also means Jesus wasn't so-called black either. This is the lies and hypocrisy, man. Anyway, what I did is I took it all the way back to J. Daniel Hayes, right? Daniel Hayes, he was taught by the Ouachita Baptist University. Well, what is Ouachita? Right? Well, Ouachita comes from the Native Americans. They named the river at the Ouachita River. Obviously, this is what they do. Right? Like here, where I'm at in Maryland, you have what you call the Chesapeake Bay. What they do is they'll take things and then they'll start naming it after a people or a group, but under the authority of them, right? So let's go on. Ouachita University was set up by the, what do they call it? The Sentinel Baptist Church in 1855. And you know what they always did? They set up a Negro. Some of these were tares, right? So if a so-called white man laid with a black woman and they had a child, they would raise that child up. You could see how this man looks. I don't know. He could be a Jake, but they would raise him up to be a head of the church. And that's what they did. And this is he was born in 1855, right? And died in 1922. So like in 1888, somewhere around there, I read somewhere, how convenient that the Bible Destruction Group of 1807, and well, they gave in the 1800s, and they gave us that slave Bible, and then out of the slave Bible, they had something called re-educating, and then out of that, you had what the HBCUs by the Historical Black College. I read a lot of this. This man was set up by the Arkansas Baptist State Convention. It's called by the Cooperative Program. Yeah, I went all the way back. The Arkansas Baptist Church. Now, anybody don't know the history on the churches, there were slaves that there were slave owners that felt that if they converted slaves to the right Christianity, by the way, they could be more civilized, because the Jesuits and the people that went and conquered and took down, especially in Africa, told them they couldn't do polygamy anymore. That was the modern Christianity. This is why Kenya, where the IUIC try to go into, they're having a fit with that. They don't want no parts of that. But it was a slave program, and that's what the churches mainly and the colleges mainly was there to do, is re-educate or re-institutionalize you. You know, that's what this was all about. A lot of people don't know that, and this man here, James Phillip Eagle, right? He the one started, was the American politician, and he was the governor. Well, this man here, the governor. So they had white America set up these churches. The HBCU, the Historical Black Colleges, was also set up by a man named Richard Humphreys, who was an abolitionist who still had slaves. How convenient the abolitionists had slaves. A lot of them wasn't about abolishing slavery. It was the treatment of the slaves. That's, of course, what they won't tell you as well. So when you see this guy in this video go back and talk about One West and what happened in the 1900s, right? 1969 or the 1900s, when One West was started, we got to go back some years before that, where you had these Baptist conventions that re-educated black people, especially bringing them from slavery from Africa, who was following the scriptures, the Torah, but they ripped it from them and re-educated them and said, you can't have many wives. This is not how you worship. I mean, it goes deep. It's a lot to go into it. It says black students face significant barriers in higher education in 1800s, including racism and discrimination. Some colleges did educate black people, and historically black colleges and universities emerged, provided opportunities. Do you really think these people... Now, the whole point of slavery was to civilize the Negro and make money, obviously. You know? Here we have the slave Bible, the Holy Bible, the Negro, it says here, when they tried to start reinstituting the Bible, it says here in mid 1800s. So you get the point. I was going to go through a lot of it, but I did the research of what I saw, and let's go here. It doesn't make sense. We don't believe it. Job 30:30. It says, my skin is black upon me, and my bones are burned with heat. But what they'll try to do is say there was ash put on them, and it made them black. This white supremacy. I never seen nobody turn black from starvation. I know who were white turned black. I never seen that. And if a white person ever turned black, and ash and his skin turned completely black, and it peeled off of him, well, he'd be dead, because the immune system, that's what protects your immune system, your skin, which is the largest organ on the body. Again, doesn't make sense. Only people who are already in the condition that they're in will get darker. So the whole point of, to sum it up, just because someone's dark don't make them the same nation. Just because you're from the continent of Africa, and where we were up in the further parts and in Europe and everywhere else, can he describe that? Can he explain that? It doesn't make you the same people. You can go in 7-Eleven and they're darker than me, and they'll call me a Negro. In fact, Africans will call me Negro. They'll say the N-word. I'm talking about black Africans. They'll call you the N-word. Why? Because we are a different tribe of people. So when you see Shem, Ham, and Japheth, they were all so-called black. Let's get an example of Genesis 25, right? This is when it all changed. Well, let's get the one with Moses. Let me get that. Exodus 4 and 6. And the Lord said, furthermore unto him, Moses, put your hand into your bosom. And he pulled his hand out of his bosom. And when he took it out, behold, his hand became leprous, white as snow. Now, why are they saying leprous? Because that's complete loss of pigmentation. That's what that means. And that's why I said white as snow. We see this in the story of Miriam as well. It says, and he said, put thine hand into thy bosom again. And he put his hand into his bosom again and plucked it out of his bosom. And behold, it was turned again as the other flesh. It makes sense in the story of Miriam when, was it Aaron and his sister Miriam had a problem with Moses and the woman, the heathen woman. Now they would say that they'll put a picture up, and this is the mindset of black culture and white supremacy, right? They base everything on black and white. They'll put a picture of a Moses and I believe the Ethiopian woman, I forgot her name, from Jethro, but they'll put the image of them up, and they'll have Zipporah, I think. They'll put the image of them up, and they'll have a black man, a white man as Moses, and a black woman, just because it says she was Ethiopian or something. This is the madness. When clearly we're different people altogether. We're clearly different people. Is this something that you would see the black woman walk around doing? You see what I'm saying? There's different Asian ethnicities, so to speak, as they say. We say Ammon and Moab. They may look alike, but they have different so-called traits. You don't dare call a Japanese a Chinese. You know what I'm saying? So you're going to have people who have the same traits, or like those people in that land, they won't dare call themselves, right, the regular Caucasian. They just won't do that. Right? Different tribes. There's different tribes of people. Right? Although that they are. But they'll look different. Now we look black when they're different tribes. Let me say that. They're different tribes. They all come from Edom. Right? And there's different tribes, basically, when you look at Ham, Shem, Japheth, you just have different tribes. That don't mean we the same people. So they associate, that ain't nothing but pure racism in itself. Every time you see somebody black, they the same damn people. But then they're allowed to separate and differentiate themselves from other ethnicities that look like them. So anyway, let's go to example Numbers 25 and 7. And Phinehas, the son of Eleazar, the son of Aaron, the son of Eleazar and the son of Aaron, I think the grandson of Aaron, the priest, saw it. He rose up from among the congregation and took the javelin through his hand, meaning he put a javelin through the man and woman, and it's because they was worshiping he was worshiping the practice of the heathen. So we look up this word Phinehas. Now remember, we had dealings in Egypt and various other places, so you know we was different borders, right? Phinehas, mouth of brass. That's what the mouth of brass. Look it up in your Oxford Dictionary, and this is what it says: Egyptian Negro. And in the Oxford Dictionary, it'll say the Nubian Negro, right? So how is Phinehas the Egyptian Negro, right? We clearly know he would have been an Israelite, or what should I say, the sons of the Most High, son of the Most High, right? Come on, man. But you could still say, yeah, he would have been an Israelite. Okay? So if he was an Israelite, he was Negroid, that means he was so-called black. That's why there's a difference between the Egyptian and Israel. Right? Because the Egyptians were dark, the Israelites were dark. The Lord wouldn't have to say put a difference between them if they totally look different. Everybody would know the difference. But anyway, that's the doctrine. That's what what this man is doing the very thing that he claimed that we're doing. Right? If you're claiming that we are racist and we're saying the Israelites are black, and you claim, well, this is not true, or it doesn't matter, but you're claiming, no, they wasn't black, they were white. But we're not falling for it. You know what I'm saying? We're not falling for it. That's all I want to say. Shalom.